Welcome to the channel, guys. We are back again for another First Impression Fridays, although today it's happening on Saturday, Christmas Day, and today I'm going to be checking out two Memo fragrances, of course, from their leather line, which is probably what's they're known best for. Oriental leather today and French leather, so stay tuned for that. If you like first impressions, Cologne comparisons, fragrance reviews, and top 10 lists, hit that subscribe button for more great content. So, Memo is, to be honest with you, actually, I find Memo to be one of those brands that's a little overpriced, oftentimes for what they offer. Especially retail, it's like, what, $200 or $300 for a 75 ml? That's a hard sell for me, but I do like checking out some of their fragrances. So far, out of the leather fragrances, my favorite so far is Irish leather. But today I'm going to be checking out French leather and Oriental leather, and I actually don't remember or know any of the notes, so I'm just expecting to smell some kind of leathery fragrance from both these. I'm going to start out with French leather, just because I feel like Oriental leather is going to be some kind of spicy or fragrance, but we'll see what it actually turns out to be. French leather, don't know what to expect from it, so here we go, right into it. I can smell it a little bit. That is actually hard to describe. There is a bit of freshness there. It definitely does come across fresh. I don't pick up a lot of the leather, and this is another thing about the leather line. Often they're not actually that leather dominant. This one does come off fresh. I don't know if it's like juniper berries. There is something giving it, off the top, a very light freshness. This French leather, at least on first thought, seems like it would be the kind of fragrance that you could wear in spring, maybe even summer. Don't know how much this one gets heavy leather, but it's very fresh. There is something there that gives me a slight soapiness. I'm going to put a little bit more on, just because it can always be helpful to put as much as possible, really, for these first impressions, to really dose it up. Yeah, I mean, very fresh, maybe aldehydes or something like that. Not like breezy, it's almost comes off a little bit aquatic, but it's very fresh. This is why I think it has something like a juniper berry or some kind of citrusy top that's definitely giving it some kind of, I often find, citrus on the top can give me a little bit of almost an aquatic feel, but not like full-on aquatic fragrance. But definitely very fresh, light, maybe a hint of spice in there, something just slightly. And like I said, there is something under it that does come across a little bit soapy. This is a very clean fragrance. So again, like I said, spring, summer could easily be possible for this. I really want to let this one dry down a little bit, which is why I'm going to switch over to Oriental leather. See how this one develops. Maybe it darkens up or thickens up, gets a little bit heavier, but it's very light, very fresh. Yeah, so not at all what I was actually expecting. I was maybe expecting something a little creamier, a little bit more sensual, maybe just because I'm French, but I mean, who knows? It does maybe have a little bit of a French traditional feel to it with the freshness. So Oriental leather here. Let's see what this one does. Let's see what it do. Yeah, so this is a lot more like I was thinking. There is this spiciness. It does definitely have this very nice spicy mix. It's not like a really strong spicy feel like black pepper can be, especially when you get something like Spice Bomb in the opening, but it is more of that mix that is a blended mild spicy feel, but not like in your face. Like, it's definitely dominant, but it's not like the kind of spiciness that really hits you hard. I mean, I want to guess something like saffron, but it isn't really screaming out to me. And I would actually guess it's a little bit of a blend of a couple different spices in there. Also not getting a ton of leatheriness. Maybe a little bit underneath. This one does feel much more darker, fuller, thicker, although not excessively so. And this one, on contrary, would be more of a fall-winter. It's got a slight bit of skunkiness there, not like overly done, but there is something a little bit skunky. I'm not sure if there's a floral of some kind. I wouldn't be surprised if there is something floral there too. Now it does smell familiar. This one does give me a vibe that I've definitely felt before, but I'm not entirely sure where from. Getting a lot more leather now. So that spiciness is definitely toned down a little bit. And I think it is becoming a little bit more leathery. I mean, it's all still there, but the leather is definitely much more prominent. I can definitely call this one a leather fragrance, and it does have a lot more of an Oriental feel. So, you know, what I know about these fragrances, at least from, you know, the one time that I did go to a boutique, a lot of the fragrances, or all of them maybe even, have something to do with places that the creators had traveled, and it kind of is a way of remembering those experiences. So this definitely does have that Oriental feel to it. I'm not entirely sure what location or where this fragrance was dreamed up to remind them of. But it is interesting. There's something very slightly sweet under there too. Very faint, but a little bit. I'm going to go back to French leather. Now French leather, if I was going to dream up of a spot, that one's got a little bit of sweetness too. And I do pick up a little bit of the leather now. It's a very different leather. It's a very supple, mild leather. But I definitely get that slick feel, a lot more of like a tanned hide. Not super strong like that industrial type leather, but not full on suede like you get in ombre leather. But it is somewhere in between that. So it's a very fine kind of leather. Actually really, really nice. It does have a very classy, elegant feel. I do really actually like this one, the way that it's developing anyways. Like, on first sniff, I did get, well, after return to it, also did get a little bit of, you know, a slight sweetness. But the leather is definitely becoming a lot more prominent. There is still a little bit of that light, airy kind of freshness, but not nearly as strong as it was at the first vibe. But I gotta say, that one is developing extremely nicely. I like the direction that it's going. It does feel a little bit more like a spring, that not so much summer with the direction it's going, but spring, maybe fall. It is still lighter. It is still a little bit more diffuse. I wouldn't call it as fresh as right on the opening, so definitely not so much leaning to the summer right now. But springtime actually feels like a good time for this fragrance. And you know, if I was to think of a location, it's definitely not like a Paris type of location. This feels more like the countryside in France, just because it has that fresh, almost bright quality. I mean, it's not in and of itself, if you think of fragrance that's really bright, but it is light, and it is light feeling. It doesn't have the darkness or the thickness that a lot of leather fragrances have. Nice. Definitely is developing a lot nicer. I think it does come off a little bit more like a mass appealing leather as well. Gonna go back to the Oriental leather for one more sniff before I wrap this one up. Still has a little bit of that spice there. Definitely still has a little bit of that spice. I do pick that up. You know, I almost want to say maybe it's a cinnamon. I'm really not sure. Like, it did have a little bit of saffron vibe, but deeper in, I'm getting a little bit maybe cinnamon, something like that. I'm not sure, but there is a spiciness there. Leathery vibe still there. It seems like it's a little bit of a battle between the leather and the spice, but You know, it is a little bit more of a dry fragrance, definitely a little bit more fall. I don't know that it's heavy enough for a really cold winter. It depends, of course, where you are. But actually, both these are nice. Both these are actually really, really nice. And you know I went back to the price value proposition for Memo fragrances, and that's kind of the impression I get. A lot of them are really nice fragrances, but for like $200-300 plus for 75 mil, again, for me, it's got to be really good to pay retail. If you can get them on discount, which oftentimes you can, I think the value can definitely be there. My personal opinion, both are nice. I'm leaning towards French leather right now to say it's actually the better of the two. But you know what? That's it. I'm going to wrap it there. And let me know in a comment down below, what is your favorite Memo leather fragrance? And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video.